I mean, but how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah, it's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future. So, again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic.
Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of Common Sense View. It's my honor to welcome you. If this is the first time you are joining, please don't forget to subscribe and like, especially if you like what you're seeing. If you don't like what you're seeing, please give me a tip on what area you want me to improve on, or any particular message or news you want me to talk about. Now, it is obvious that the media is developing a fearful atmosphere because the people seem to be liking Donald Trump more. And there's nothing you can do about it. But even CNN has to make it a constant reminder to the people by their reports. So in one of the latest reports, they were showing how Donald Trump was able to garner 17 points momentum post-inauguration, compared to where he was in 2016. And in 2020, he never got inaugurated because he never won in 2020. Whatever. So, and not just that. That was approval rating. And then how everything changed, swapped like 180 degrees, optimism of the people. Everything also was highly swapped and positive right now compared to where it was in 2016. So it's not just, it didn't happen in the blank. When people have been fed a lot of garbage for a long time against one man, and then people were forced to do their own research, that is what the result turned out to be. So let's see what the report of CNN has to say about this, and let us wait on the other side for our own observation and comment. Let's go.
Take a look here. President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher. Plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point, they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming. And what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's presidential transition is getting a thumbs up, and dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And, you know, we're still on the appointment phase at this point, but it does give insight to sort of where this team is thinking to lead some of these key departments, of course. I mean, but how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah, it's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future. So, again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic. It's flip-flop, where a narrow majority 8 years ago were scared or concerned about the upcoming Trump term. Now what we see is that the majority is excited or optimistic about the Trump term. So what we're just seeing is very different numbers from where we were 8 years ago. 8 years ago, folks really were not that in love with the Trump transition. Now they are, and more than that, looking forward to the upcoming Trump term. 8 years ago, the majority were scared or concerned. Now the majority are excited or optimistic.
One may ask why were folk not so much optimistic 8 years ago? Why were people so much afraid 8 years ago? The media. The lies were so much that Trump missed the honeymoon period that every other president before him has enjoyed. He entered with a massive riot and campaign and a demonstration against him, and he was portrayed as Hitler from day one, a fascist and not just a disruptor, but a destroyer of the system. Antifa was breaking up and down. The Me Too movement sprung from nowhere, with women wearing some weird hats, demonstrating against Trump. But this time around, after they have witnessed back-to-back administration, that of Trump and that of Biden, it was just obvious. People saw that at the time of Trump, their life was better, at least. They were able to differentiate between his personality and his policies, even though there is no policy of Trump without Trump's personality. But that, we can give them that. We can give them that. They can take that as for their own gain. At the end of the day, they came around. They saw the catastrophe that has been the situation now. 11 million people coming into a country in less than 4 years is more or less a disaster. It's a crisis. Yet, it was not until few months ago that they accepted that it was a crisis and gave that executive order that curtailed it just for the purpose of election. Just as they did when there was fuel scarcity, when the price of gas was so high, they had to go into the reserve to explode so that the midterm will be favorable, and it was. But this time around, the magic didn't work. So, even though generally the media are accepting Trump, there are still that denial, especially some news outlets that refuse to acknowledge it wholeheartedly. Rather, they speak with one voice acknowledging and the other voice spreading a kind of dust on top of it to minimize the level of turnaround the people have had regarding Trump's magnificent re-entry into the White House. One of the outlets that has that remark about Trump was The Nation, who, even though they're pointing out the likability that Trump is enjoying, they are also at the same time pointing out that the nominees are just a bizarre, of course they are a bizarre bunch. Of course they have the right to make their own opinion known, but it doesn't make it right or wrong. So you decide. Read what The Nation wrote about it. According to them, say somehow America are liking Trump better every day. And you ask, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? But if you go to that article and read a little bit lower, before you can get to where they mentioned this, you see how much they talked about Trump. The denial is still there. They cannot get themselves to accept that Trump didn't just won the electoral vote as they were accusing him in 2016, but he also won the popular vote. And the margin of the popular vote is almost closer, much more closer to the margin he got in 2020, as against the margin Kamala Harris got that is wide apart from what Joe Biden got, which begs the question, where did the voters go? Well, that is not the question for today. Another day we'll pick on that. The next thing on our agenda is that somehow Kamala Harris resurfaced. Everyone knows that it is not that simple to lose an election or to lose any competition at all. It needs extra courage and extra determination to overcome, especially when you believe and when you're being pumped to believe that you are there. And you realize that you are not at the end. That is just what you saw that looked like a river along the street or just a mirage. But it takes also a proper sense of discernment to accept that even though you blew away $1.5 billion in less than 4 months, your campaign was not the best. It was not the best that you would have put forward ever, especially considering that you're going to be a historic figure in that position. That being said, let us see the Kamala in this clip and compare to the glittering Kamala we saw during the election period. A Kamala that is obviously, of course I can't prove that, drunk in looks, as against the polished Kamala that was full of joy and vibes during the campaign period. Take it out.
Just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
So before we continue on this video, please, I plead that you subscribe if you like what you have seen so far, or at least like, so we grow the audience. And also leave your comment. It doesn't matter what you feel to write it, just leave your comment. Let's see if you have a different opinion. And considering the Kamala, you judge yourself. Is that the Kamala we saw during the campaign? And are you sure? Can you say that she's drunk, as I thought in this video that she is? If not, what do you suggest is the reason why she looks so much worn out, like somebody that is not even the same person that was there few weeks back? That being said, this is people who saw exactly what I saw. One of the people on X, what they wrote, he said, Alafia, that's the name of the person. Wait, is Kamala Harris drunk in this clip? She's been hunkered down in Hawaii for days. MOIA, after suffering a humiliating landslide defeat at the hands of Donald J. Trump. But why would she suddenly resurface looking and sounding like you are divorced alcoholic aunt? So, a little bit harsh, it's not easy to get defeat. But also, there has to be time for introspection, as a lot of Kamala's orbit, people in her orbit refuse to accept that their campaign was not really good enough. In one of the clips I wasn't able to pull up here, you see her campaign staff giving excuses why they lost the election, and none of them really mentioned that they were not able to connect with the people in their needs, that they were not able to relate to people in their need, that they were not out at all encountering the people in their needs, that rather they ran an elitist campaign that had to show people how they should be, how their life should be, and not what their life is. And how they show people their life should be is celebrity, which is not reachable to a lot of people. So a lot of people saw them as being out of touch with reality. And if you get closer, any person, even a glass of water would have got the same number that Kamala got, because she didn't get these votes based on her ability. As that's my own opinion, I may be wrong. She got it because the machine is working. Remove the machine, she wouldn't have gone far, which was indicative in her 2019 run, primaries run. So that being said, the problem is that the people in the progressive or left have refused to ask themselves what is going on in the world, that a lot of countries are moving to the right. If they don't pause and ask themselves this question, the left will lose all the institutions they have built over a period of time, hundreds of years, as a matter of fact. In Europe, practically everywhere in the developed world, people are moving to the right or much to the center, because the left is moving further away from the center. They are becoming too elitist. They're becoming the upper class people who have nothing or practically little to do with the lower class, creating a chasm between the upper and the lower class. The middle class is almost wiped out. by this elitist movement. And until those in the left realize this, they don't have a chance. So when people ask, why is Donald Trump being liked as he is now? And the answer is because even though Donald Trump is a billionaire, he has learned to relate with the common man in his or her own universe of discourse. And that is my own thought to you at this point. Once again, thank you for watching and subscribe. Until then, see you next time.